Dolphins on ABC's Monday Night Football. It's a beautiful South Florida night here in Miami. A perfect night for football. Temperature right around 72, 75. Little or no humidity, no breeze blowing. Sellout crowd. Joe Robbie Stadium, 70,000 plus for the San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football. Hello again, everyone. Frank Gifford with Al and Dan. Happy you're with us. A very special one for you tonight. The 49ers and the Miami Dolphins, and these are two teams that both need a win tonight. They're 6-4. San Francisco needs a win to stay even with Atlanta in the NFC Western Division. Miami needs a win tonight to stay one game behind Buffalo in the AFC East. Both teams have been up and down all year. Miami started with 4 straight wins, then they lost 3, and Miami Dolphins fans are wondering which team is going to show up tonight. Meanwhile, the 49ers 3 weeks ago lost to New Orleans. They lost to Carolina, Al, and then last week they just destroyed Dallas 38-20, and I think 49er fans are wondering which team is going to show up.
Frank, when they lost to those two teams, a lot of people thought the king is dead. And then last week in front of the entire country, the 49ers resoundingly said, long live the king. Amazingly, Steve Young had arthroscopic surgery on his left shoulder 7 days ago. He is in uniform tonight. I talked to him an hour ago on the field. He said, I am ready for some football. He can play tonight, but he won't start. He will definitely start next Sunday against the Rams in San Francisco. But he could see some action 7 days after arthroscopic surgery behind Elvis Grbac, who again gets the start, and he has in his arsenal the incomparable Jerry Rice. But what's really helped the 49ers lately has been their defensive unit. They are #1 in the National Football League defensively at this point. A win tonight, they're 7-4, and they're right back in the thick of things, tied with Atlanta for first place in the NFC West. They come into Miami to face the Dolphins, and you come into this town right now, Dan, and there is a lot of mumbling and grumbling because the Dolphins are stumbling.
It equates to pressure on this football team now, and it is intense. And it's the pressure that's really caused by the total unpredictability of the Miami Dolphins. You see, they've developed this penchant for beating the teams that they might lose to because they're pretty good. But then they stumble and lose to the teams that they should beat handily. 3 of their 4 losses have been to the Patriots, to the Saints, and to the lowly New York Jets. Now, the folks down here are wondering, how can this be that a team with 19 #1 draft choices, count them, 19 #1 draft choices, a coach destined for the Hall of Fame, and a quarterback destined for the Hall of Fame can be having such troubles? Their Super Bowl run better start tonight, or hurricane season here in South Florida might be extended. Now, speaking of that Hall of Fame quarterback, we're talking about the incomparable Dan Marino, and we may get a chance tonight to see some NFL history. Dan Marino enters tonight's game only 2 touchdowns behind the 342 thrown by Fran Tarkenton. So 2 to tie, 3 to take the record, and Dan will tell you it's the record he covets most of all.
And it would be the 3rd record for Dan this season, as he has already eclipsed Tarkenton in passing yardage. He eclipsed him in completions. He will eventually eclipse him in touchdown passes and eventually in attempts as well. Jeff Wilkins signed by the club last week. Dan Marino getting ready to lead his offense out onto the field as the 49ers get set to kick off. Marco Coleman and the Miami defensive unit will be facing Elvis Grbac and company tonight as a capacity crowd on a beautiful night at Joe Robbie Stadium settles in for what should be a great game. Randall Hill and O.J. McDuffie. McDuffie, their primary return man, who returns kicks, returns punts, and is their #2 wide receiver. And he takes it at the goal line, and O.J. up past the 10 and the 20, and taken down at the 25-yard line. Tackled by Brian O'Neill. Dan Marino. And there are the career numbers. 340 touchdown passes. This season alone, despite missing a couple of games, 12 TD passes, 7 interceptions. Parmalee and Byers, the running backs, Fryer and McDuffie, the wideouts, and Green is the tight end. Webb, Sims, Ruddy, Widener, and the rookie Milner up front at right tackle, their #1 draft choice from Houston. Marino right to the air, under pressure, and immediately sacked by Bryant Young, and the 49ers with a great pair of defensive tackles. Young, who missed about a month because of a sprained ankle, back at about 90% right now. Brown, Young, and Stubblefield in the middle, and the ageless wonder Ricky Jackson outside. Woodall, Norton, and Plummer are the backers. And the secondary, a brilliant job last week in Dallas. Davis and Pope at the corners. McDonald and Hanks are the safeties. Merton last week ran back a fumble for a touchdown early in the game against the Cowboys. 2nd and 19. Marino under pressure again, and Marino down again at the 14-yard line, and Bryant Young is there. So Bryant is 2 for 2.
You know, he touched on something earlier, Al. You said Chris Gray was out of the lineup tonight. He is indeed, and Bert Widener is filling in for him, and right now the man over him has been in on the last 2 plays, Dan.
Well, how do you start a game any better than Bryant Young is starting it? 2 plays, 2 sacks, and how can you conceivably start any worse? This is a psychological death blow for the Miami Dolphins and their offensive line. Take my word for it. This is a backbreaker to open up a game with 2 consecutive sacks.
I thought the 49ers were tough against the run.
Whoa.
Young had 2 sacks all season coming in. 3rd and 21. And Dan Marino just about gets back to the line of scrimmage. Ricky Jackson is there, but he is behind the line of scrimmage, and that's recorded as a sack. And Pete Carroll, last year's head coach of the New York Jets and now the defensive coordinator, watches his team start a game in a fashion that may be unprecedented.
Marino only had 8 sacks coming into this game, and they are just overpowering the line up front. And again, Widener, number 60, having a tough time forcing Marino to step back into the pocket. He gets nailed again.
A perfect start for the 49ers defensively. John Kidd with a wobbly kick that bounces at the 49er 46. Fielded by Dexter Carter on a hop. He's into Miami territory and takes it to the 43. Dexter, who had been with the Niners, then went to the Jets. Gerbach listening for the signal from Steve Young as he adjusts his helmet coming in, and Gerbach getting the start here with Young behind him. Walker and Lavelle are the running backs. Lavelle the primary running back. Rice and Taylor the wideout. Jones the tight end. Strafford, Sapolu, Oates, Milstead, and Barton the offensive line. Steve Wallace, who normally starts at left tackle with a shoulder injury, out tonight, should be back next week against the Rams. Gerbach gives it to Lavelle on a sweep on 1st down, and Lavelle takes the ball to the 35-yard line for a gain of 8, where he is tackled by Hollier. Marino going over things with the guys upstairs as we look at the Miami defense. Cross, Bowens, Klingbeil, and Coleman. The linebackers, Singleton with Cox in the middle and Hollier. And then the secondary, where Gene Atkins is now out, and he's replaced by Oliver. Vincent and Brown at the corners. Stewart and Oliver are the safeties. Young on the headset listens to the call upstairs from Mark Preston, and then relieves it to Gerbach, who throws. The catch is made by Rice inside the 30, and Jerry out of bounds at the 19-yard line, tackled by J.B. Brown.
Gentlemen, the last time we were in this booth doing a 49er game, it was at last year's Super Bowl, and this is a start very reminiscent of that game where the 49ers climbed all over the San Diego Chargers. Every defensive coordinator in the league preaches one thing when you play the 49ers. The first man must make the tackle. The very first time that Jerry Rice gets the ball, there's a missed tackle. If that continues, the Dolphins are in huge trouble.
Jerry Rice, just 16-yard gain, and now Walker takes the handoff inside the 10, and Adam Walker with a broken hand takes it to the 3-yard line. Tom Olivedotti's defensive unit being shredded on the opening drive. That's a 16-yard gain following Rice's 16-yard reception.
Well, right now, the 49ers are just destroying the Dolphins on both sides of the ball. A moment ago, it was Jerry Rice just killing J.B. Brown, who thought he was going deep. He took it on the slant, gets the big pickup. Blocked perfectly. Bart Oates with a good block, just zone blocking, finding the hole. Beautifully executed.
This is the type of a beginning that shell-shocks the football team.
That was only Walker's 5th carry of the year. Lavelle, with a second effort, is in for the touchdown.
And ball broke the plane.
That second surge did it, and the 49ers will begin the game sacking Marino 3 times, move briskly down the field, and pick up where they left off last week in Irving.
Well, somebody obviously did not wrap up for the Dolphins, because there was a hit made, and I think it was by Brian Cox. Let's see if it's Cox who floats in there, number 51, but there's a stick on about the 2-yard line. Right there where Lavelle is stopped, and yet nobody wraps him up, and he stretches the ball. It was Brian Cox. A good hit, but no wrap up to go with it, and with a second effort, Lavelle gets in the end zone.
3:37 into the game. The 49ers ready some football. The Dolphins, not yet. Well, the Miami defense talking to themselves, and the offense as well.
Well, they know that a team with the skilled players that the 49ers have is that the first guy there has got to have an impact. If he doesn't get him to the ground, he at least has to hold him long enough and delay him long enough for him to get help. And Tom Olivadotti, they're trying to convey that to his troops. It's no secret.
Jeff Wilkins out of Youngstown, Ohio, sends this one into the end zone, and Randall Hill will down it there.
When a team throws the ball as quickly and on short patterns like the 49ers do, you cannot keep them from completing the pass. What you have to do is make the tackle, and right there is a missed tackle on the part of the Dolphins, and look what happens. It results in the 49ers getting good field position. There's J.B. Brown missing right there. Take a look at this. And again, another multiple yardage play by the 49ers. And right here, a classic case of Brian Cox not wrapping up. I mean, that should have been stopped at the 2 or the 3 yard line. If the Dolphins continue to play defense like that, they're going to get blown out.
First running play for Miami is a 3-yard gain for Bernie Parmalee through the middle to the 23-yard line.
The alternative to not throwing the ball against the 49ers is running the football, and the 49ers have the best run defense in the game. They have given up under 3 yards per attempt. They are kind of a slashing, attacking team. They often bring 8 men right up to the line of scrimmage. They play the run very well, and we have just seen how they play the pass.
Yeah, it equates to a little less than 64 yards a game, Frank. That's
remarkable.
Great numbers.
Holding the record numbers. Opposition to 2.7 yards per rush. League average 4.0. Marino on 2nd and 7 nearly got sacked again, but finds Parmalee, and Bernie has Miami's initial first down, an 11-yard gain as he runs into Seifert. Marquez Polk ran him out of bounds. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Red Dog Beer. Bold yet smooth, unusually easy to drink. You are your own dog. Apple, makers of Macintosh personal computers. If you own the world's easiest computer, what would you do with it? And Lincoln Mercury and the complete line of 1996 Mercury automobiles.
On that last play, we saw Bryant Young. You referred to Marino barely getting away, Al. It was Bryant Young again. The Dolphins being pummeled between the guards.
Young with 2 sacks on that first series, and Jackson with 1. Here's Parmalee. And with a second surge, turns a half-yard gain into a 3-yard pickup. Bryant Young the first to make contact with him. Bernie Story, pretty well known. He was out of football, went to Ball State, and worked as a UPS delivery man. Got another shot with the Dolphins, and here he is in the starting lineup.
And their leading rusher coming in tonight. Did receiver 2 out of the backfield with over 25 receptions. Right now, it's a bit of in a daze offensively for the Dolphins. They have not controlled the pass rush on one single pass attempt.
Hey, get back, get back. 49ers ahead 7-0. The swing pass. Parmalee. And Bernie takes it to the 39. He's a couple of yards short of the first down. Norton makes the tackle. It'll be 3rd down and 2. 49ers, no touchdowns allowed in the last 41 opponents' drives that started at or inside the 25. And this drive would qualify as the 42nd since it started at the 20.
Just try to watch these two clubs and the way they tackle. Right there, a swing pass by the Dolphins. The first 49ers on the scene make the tackle. You'll get a good comparison between the two defensive teams during the course of this game.
3rd down and 2, and nothing happening in the middle. Not enough for the first, though. Ricky Jackson, the ageless wonder at the age of 37. He now has 7.5 sacks after that sack on the opening series. Is there for the stop. And the Dolphins send in the punting unit.
Ricky Jackson has had a renewed career a rebirth or something over the past few weeks. He has just been exploding with the grand old age of 37.
Pretty good form tackle, huh? Watch him come right down the line of scrimmage. They're trying to cut him off with Irving Fryer, a wide receiver. That's a mistake right from the beginning. Irving Fryer is not going to keep Ricky Jackson out of a play.
On 4th and inches, keep the punt. Dexter Carter back to receive it. Carter calls for the fair catch. And it's a 39-yard kick as he hauls it into the 21-yard line. Niners take over there. 7:56 left opening quarter. 7-0 San Francisco. Stars and stripes hovering high above Joe Robbie Stadium. 7-0 San Francisco. 7:56 left in the opening quarter.
For Miami, the bad news is that they have been dominated. The good news is that unlike Dallas, they didn't give up 14 points in a minute and 24 seconds. Very explosive 49er team.
Elvis Grbac retreats on first down from the 22, and the catch is made by John Taylor. And there again, they couldn't wrap up on him as J.B. Brown had him shy of the first down, and John scrambles for another 4 yards and a first down.
John Taylor had some great moments, a couple of 1,000-yard seasons. He is kind of healthy tonight. Had a lot of troubles with his knees. Had a pulled muscle last week. But he terrifies the defensive back with sheer speed. And J.B. Brown, concerned about the deep pattern, playing well off. And a good pass by Grbac.
Dexter Carter in the game. He's in motion. Here's Lavelle swinging to the outside. Taken down hard at the 40, and the game's first flag is thrown. Jerry Markwright's crew officiating this game. Collier and Cox make the tackle, and the penalty is against San Francisco.
You'll always see more holding calls or illegal use of hands.
Number 84, offense. 10-yard penalty. First down.
That's Brent Jones, the tight end. But any play that attacks the perimeter, it's much more likely to draw a holding call, because rather than straight away blocking, you're trying to pin somebody to the inside. The bottom of your screen there is Brent Jones. You see him taking the down block right there. Gets underneath it. Sure didn't look like.
It's pretty good to me.
Yeah, it sure didn't look like holding from that angle.
Textbook, as a matter of fact. We got a wrong number.
Unfortunately, you put a guy on the ground, and that's what happens a lot of times. They think you can't put a guy on the ground without holding.
4 receivers in this set, including Jones, who goes in motion on 1st and 20. Grbac under pressure finally, and that pass is incomplete, and that's almost a coverage sack. Marco Coleman got to him, but Grbac had a lot of time. The secondary did its job.
That was a coverage sack, Al, and good coverage deep downfield. No underneath man, which is unusual for the 49ers. As we look at Mark Trestman, the offensive coordinator, they had no place for Grbac to go, and a shaken-up secondary of the Miami Dolphins providing good coverage. The Louis Oliver stepped in for Gene Atkins this week, and a lot of controversy over that, but that was fine coverage.
Second down and 20 from the 26. 6:53 left in the opening quarter. Grbac throws. Rice makes the catch over the middle. Jerry up to the 36-yard line. Talking about Mark Trestman. Trestman really knows the Miami defense. He used to do a show here in Miami last year with local personality Hank Goldberg, who also does some work for ESPN, and they would go over the Miami schemes every week. So he looked at that Miami defense every week on a 1-hour show.
They've been out of football for, what, 3 years? As an attorney in an investment company, and he's kind of surprised to be back in it.
3rd down and 10, and Gerbac's going to take a timeout. Timeout 49ers. 6:15 left. Opening quarter in Miami. 7-0 49ers.
Wearing the baseball hats are 2/5 of the starting offensive line for the 49ers. Steve Walsh on the left, Derek Deese on the right, the left tackle and right guard respectively. They're sitting this one out, but what has been a 49er trademark for years, they have a lot of depth.
3rd down and 10 as Grbac looks over the middle and throws incomplete. Good coverage again. He tried to throw underneath finally to Derek Lavelle, and that gives the crowd reason to exhort that defensive unit, which looks so terrible on the 49ers first series.
Even the job that Elvis has done, particularly last week against Dallas, you know what if Steve Young would have been. He would have been outside there looking and threatening to run. So he brings you that extra dimension that No quarterback can, but certainly Elvis is not the scrambler he is.
No, but one of the things they do like about Elvis, Frank, is that he didn't force the football. He'll throw it away before he'll force it into coverage.
Tommy Thompson with a 43-yard punt, fielded by McDuffie at the 21, and O.J. brings it back to the 24. Marino and company taking over there. 5:59 left in the quarter. 7-0 San Francisco. In America for the first time, Don was in his second year as the coach of the Baltimore Colts, as Bernie Parmalee picks up the first down and gets banged down by Lee Woodall up at the 37. Good run by Parmalee. Shula making his debut as an NFL head coach in '63, with the Beatles appearing on the Ed Sullivan Show the following year.
I bet Don Shula's been on the Ed Sullivan Show. Standing up out in the audience. I played against Don when he was with Cleveland, and again at Washington. What a remarkable career. The winningest coach of all time in the NFL.
7 years in Baltimore, and now Don in his 26th season, so 33 years overall in the league. Marino on 1st and 10. Throws, good out pattern, caught there by Gary Clark, a long-time Redskin who's caught more than 500 in his career. First down at the 48, Eric Davis with the tackle.
That time, good protection for Marino. A deep out takes a little bit of time. He had the time. Good pocket for him. And he and Gary Clark have really worked it out. We were here for the Pittsburgh game, and he and Clark were really struggling in their timing and the depth of the patterns. It has to be perfect with Marino. They have really got it down now.
3 wide out set from the 48-yard line. Short drop by Dan. And the catch is made and then dropped by McDuffie, who recovers at the 49. Merton Hanks was there with the coverage.
Merton Hanks, of course, with a big play against Dallas a week ago. The second touchdown in the early moments. A fumble recovery into the end zone. He's always around the ball making something happen, Dan.
No kidding. And last week, boy, was that a perfect illustration of that. McDuffie did a good job in breaking the tackle of Hanks, but in the process that ball came loose, and he was fortunate that any of the 49er defenders were just that half a beat away from getting there. The Dolphins do not need a turnover right now.
2nd and 7. And they give the ball to Terry Kirby, who is the backup to Parmalee. He's tackled by Ken Norton at the 46. It'll be 3rd and 4 with 3:40 to go. First quarter, 7-0 49ers.
We really get the impression that any running attempts tonight by the Miami Dolphins are nothing more than to give Dan Marino's arm a bit of a rest. If they are to win this game, if they're to be competitive with the 49ers, this future Hall of Famer is the guy that has to do it.
Strictly cosmetic if they run the football. And to slow down the pass rush. 8-man front, 49ers.
3rd down and 4. And from that front, they rush only 4, and then Marino throws too high, intended for Gary Clark. Good coverage by Davis, and the drive bogs down, and they're forced to kick. That's Marino's first incompletion.
Okay, with that front, though, even though Marino checked it off, he checked it off to go to Gary Clark. With that pressure that Eric Davis knew he was going to have, he knew he could play Clark very closely. Overthrown, but I mean, it was pretty good coverage by Eric Davis. He knew that Marino was not going to have a lot of time.
New snapper is Frank Wainwright, just signed this week. The kicker is John Kidd, and Dexter Carter back to receive. High floating kick. Fairfax called for, made and then dropped, and that's why Carter is no longer a Jet. He had 7 fumbles with the Jets. They release him, and the 49ers, all indicating, as teams normally do, they have it.
I think the 49ers had it at first, but they don't give any prizes for who had it first. They only award who had it last, and the 49ers retained possession.
Changed hands a few times, you think? Down at the bottom of that pile, but you're right, Al. He fumbled 4 times. He went as a free agent to the Jets this year. He fumbled 4 punts. He fumbled 3 kickoff returns. That's why he's back as a former first-round draft pick of the 49ers, but he does it again here in a 49er uniform.
There's Dexter Carter, his 7 fumbles on punt and kick returns. For those of you who really understand the game, you know that technically what they call that is a muff when the ball passes between his hands. But when they keep track of fumbles, that actually goes into the fumble category. So it's actually one of each. It's a muff and a fumble.
And you're saying there is no long-standing muff category?
No, they don't have a category for muffs. I always thought it was a strange term anyway, a muff.
We keep it internally.
He muffed the ball. Well, the good news is that the 49ers, at least the 49er fans, retain possession.
They have it at the 20-yard line. Alfred Williams was the man who recovered the fumble, and this is Derek Lavelle taking it up to the 22-yard line. We go west next Monday night, and the San Diego Chargers, all of a sudden 4-7 in defense of their AFC title, will host the Oakland Raiders coming off that loss yesterday. You'll see Junior Seau and company. Tim Brown, a tremendous day, 12 catches yesterday. Try to get updated on Hostetler before this evening is done to see about Jeff for next week, as Vince Evans took over in the second half yesterday. 2nd down and 7 from the 23, and Lavelle runs right into Dwight Hollier. Fourth-year outside linebacker out of North Carolina smelled it out.
Well, you know, 49er plays are scripted. They script the first 20 or so plays, and you know that was in the script, and they must have picked up something that Miami did defensively that they could run this play against. Mark Trestman, the offensive coordinator, obviously felt that play was going to go in this situation. Well, the Dolphins also check out their frequencies and percentages. Great play by Hollier.
3rd down and 12 from the 18. The short drop, and then Gerbach floats one incomplete, intended for Jerry Rice. Good coverage by Troy Vincent, the left corner.
Troy Vincent is one of the best cornerbacks around. Almost ended his career in '93 with a bad knee injury, but he came back strong a year ago and is once again one of the best performers in the league, at least in coverage. He is terrific.
Well, I think it's astounding, Frank, that he's come back to play at the level that he is playing after that knee injury. He had a total knee reconstruction, and to come back and play a position like cornerback with all the necessary moves that requires, I think it's astounding.
Here's Tommy Thompson to kick, and it's a short kick. It bounces at the 50, but takes a great 49er bounce, and then it's picked up by McDuffie, who runs it back to the 40-yard line. Tackled there by Ted Thompson. 47-yard kick, 5-yard run back, 1:24 left in the quarter. We'll just get a little exercise in. The play whistled dead as the ball came loose after the end of a 2-yard gap, and it is 2nd down and 8.
Most defensive tackles really aren't looking for a lot of extra exercise, especially 300-pound guys, but Dana's kind of got a whiff of it. He's already got an interception on the season, and he has, let's just say, he's been a fine #1 draft choice, but he came in and started playing Pro Bowl football from his very first game as a rookie.
2nd and 8. Marino out of the shotgun for the first time. Throws, and it is caught at the 49er 46 for a first down, as Eric Green, the tight end, the former Steeler, signed as a free agent during the offseason, has a 13-yard reception, and a light rain begins to fall now in Miami.
Eric Green had arthroscopic knee surgery earlier in the year. He has been a little tentative, but this is a fine effort, as you can't hardly realize how difficult that is for a man who weighs 280 and is 6'5". What a good acrobatic move.
Light drizzle with the clock ticking down, 20 seconds left in the first quarter. Marino probably checking off and then giving the ball to Bernie Parmalee. And the first quarter will end on a 2-yard pickup to the 43-yard line. So the Niners score on their opening drive after their defense sacks Marino on Miami's first 3 plays. And that is all of the scoring in the first quarter. San Francisco 7, Miami nothing. And we'll return with Monday Night Football after this message and a word from our ABC station. In Miami as we start the second quarter. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Deerdorf, and Lynn Swan as the 49ers lead it 7-0.
Stadium might get my vote for the most photogenic from the blimp.
Very picturesque. Nice night in Miami. Had a Light drizzle falling moments ago. 2nd and 7, and Marino has that pass tipped. Somebody got a hand on it. It will be 3rd down and 7. Might have been Stubblefield. Let's take a look at the numbers through the first 15 minutes of this fray.
So if you were a Dolphin fan, you had to be very concerned early if you missed the opening game. 3 sacks from Marino in the first couple of minutes of play.
Not really an offensive explosion by either one of these clubs in the first 15 minutes, although the Dolphins generating only 55 yards of offense in nearly 10 minutes of possession. That's not getting a lot done.
3rd down and 7 now. Play clock all the way down to 1 as Marino accepts the snap. In traffic, nearly sacked again. Guns it deep. Wide open, Gary Clark.
That's a classic case of the 49er secondary thinking that Dan Marino went down and the play was over.
Or that he was going to run, and that's unheard of. Marquez Pope appeared to be the man who should have had the coverage. He was the right cornerback, number 23. He looked the most stunned when Marino fired that shot completely off balance.
He almost looked, Frank, like he thought Marino disappeared in that pile and was gone. There's Pope at the top. You see him looking.
I know. He must have thought he had deep help. He had to.
Well, a wide open Gary Clark puts Dan Marino within 1 touchdown of tying Fran Tarkenton, and he's allowed his ball club to get back into this game and tie it up.
Well, and we see the 49ers afflicted with what has bothered the Miami Dolphins. That is confusion in their secondary.
Gary Clark with his first touchdown as a Dolphin.
Go. That is Gary Clark working at what appears to be against Marquez Pope. That's Pope with the circle there. Pope came from the Rams. He was a safety. They were forced to use him at the corner. Safeties look into the backfield a lot. It could be that he either anticipated help from McDonald. He didn't get it, number 46. Or, like a lot of safeties, he was looking into that backfield. He thought Marino was going to be sacked.
Pete Stoyanovich kicks off. And it's taken into the 3-yard line by Dexter Carter. Up past the 20, the 30, and Dexter is run out of bounds at the 38-yard line. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Acura, who introduces the Acura SLX, the most civilized way to leave civilization. Ice-brewed Ice House. Ice-brewed so there's never any watered-down taste. And the new Braun Flex Integral for Braun's closest shave yet.
Well, the Miami defense appears to have settled down since that opening drive by this 49er offense that went right through them like they weren't even there. And we've got ourselves a tie ball game.
Here's Gerback throwing it over the middle into the arms of Adam Walker. If you weren't with us at the top, I mentioned Steve Young as Marino goes over things with his offensive unit. Young in uniform. He is the number 2 quarterback. He said before the game, I'm 95%. He had the arthroscopic surgery last week. He said, I will definitely start next week, and he could play tonight.
Well, he still has 4 stitches in his left shoulder, so it'll be very interesting if he does.
2nd down and 5.
It's always interesting when Steve Young plays.
Yeah, well, how about fun, too?
Now Lavelle takes that pass in and picks up the 1st down. We asked George Seifert last night, what would it take for Young to get in the game? His exact words last night, it would have to be pretty disastrous for Young to play, but he softened that explanation before tonight's game.
It was made a lot easier when Gerback went 20 of 30 for 305 yards and a couple of touchdowns last week against the Cowboys. Gerback getting the hang of this offense is not that easy, and he hasn't played that much, but he is really beginning to get the touch.
1st down from the 49. Swing pass, Lavelle. And Lavelle just puts his head down and powers through Gene Atkins and company for a 9-yard gain.
You know, there's a big picture thing here for the 49ers, and quite simply, it is that the more quality playing time that they can get for Elvis Gerback, the better it is for this organization in the future. If they can win in the process like they did last week at Dallas, all the more so the better. It is really helping this franchise down the road. Not to mention, as they make their playoff run, the healthier Steve Young is, the better for this franchise. So, you know, if they can play Elvis and win, the more the merrier, the more the better for them.
It's a bonus.
Yeah.
Lavelle picks up the first down because they had Steve Bona, who was a great backup, and because of salary cap considerations, they couldn't retain him, and he's having a great year with Kansas City. Gerbach was basically untested, inactive through all of 93, sparingly last year. As Dan mentioned, well, if you win and you get him this experience, all the better.
The tackling by the Miami Dolphins is getting crisper. It's getting tougher, and you can hear up here even the sound of the Miami defense. They are picking things up a little bit. Very sloppy beginning, but they seem to be picking up the intensity.
First down at the 39. Ricky Urbans is in the game for the first time. And that's Adam Walker struggling. A flag comes in.
That's almost invariably the hold call, which would work against the 49ers.
Holding, number 66, offense, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Bart Oates was forced back into action when Steve Wallace went out with the shoulder, and Jesse Sapolo moved over to left guard, where he had been starting a couple of games, and Bart Oates came back into the starting lineup, and he just got flagged for the hold.
It really puts everybody in a different position. There he is right in the middle of our screen. 66 is Bart Oates. I believe that's Chuck Klingbeil he's working against. It is indeed. Looks like they got him for the right hand. Tough to call it, though. That happens all the time in there.
First and 20. Gerbach throws, and Brent Jones, the intended receiver, is incomplete. Michael Stewart with the coverage.
Boy, credit the pass rush of the Dolphins that time, though. Elvis trying to throw the ball when he's got someone from Miami right in his chest pushing him back. Only 5 defensive linemen working tonight for the Miami Dolphins. Trace Armstrong and Steve Hempman are the guys that are filling in for Cross, Bowens, Klingbeil, and Coleman.
It's a big-time blitz down, second and long yardage, close to 20 yards.
Second and 20 from the 49 of Miami, and Gerbach throws, and the catch is made by J.J. Stokes, their #1 draft choice, the receiver out of UCLA, who was plucked in the draft to eventually succeed John Taylor, who says he'll retire next year.
Boy, that was a major league pass by Gerbach. He was under pressure, and that was a long in pattern by Stokes, who was a big target. He's 6'4", 217. Gerbach firing it in there. The coverage was good. J.B. Brown was all over Stokes. Gerbach put it where he could catch it.
Stokes missed the early part of the year with a broken hand. 3rd and 4, and that's off the hand of Lavelle and into the arms of Chris Dolman. And Dolman makes the catch, but it's a 1-yard net loss on the play.
Dolman, 285 pounds. And did you see the hit that was laid on him by Chris Singleton? Boy, it's not often you see a big man hit that hard and knocked backwards. I believe it was Singleton, 55.
Chris hasn't run with the ball too many times, Dan.
No, but watch this blow right here. There is a collision. That is Singleton.
It's 4th down and 5, and the 49ers are going to use a timeout, their second. With 10:24 left in the half, the game tied 7-7. Well, the crowd really alive now. The 49ers line up to go for it on 4th and 5 from the 34-yard line. Gerbach gets sacked at the 41. Trace Armstrong, and that's where Miami will take over.
Well, do they or don't they go? They have a brand-new kicker that has kicked 1 field goal for them, the 49ers. Jeff Wilkins, I watched him tonight. He is not a long kicker. Do you punt from there? So on 4th and long, they decide to go for it. This could be a critical decision. This could really turn things around for Miami.
Miami Dolphins defensive line, a well-deserved rest. I mentioned earlier that they had 5 of them going tonight. I named the 2 backups and the 4 starters. Let me see, 4 plus 2. I think that makes 6. The 6-man rotation, though, very effective here, especially here in the second quarter. A lot of pressure on Elvis.
Get that abacus back. First and 10 from the 40-yard line as Marino throws, and the catch is made by the tight end Eric Green. 21-yard gain to the San Francisco 39, tackled by McDonald. Well, Pete Carroll looking on his defensive unit so stellar on that opening drive, and all of a sudden now Marino on the last drive, 60 yards, 5 plays, and commences here with a 21-yard pickup.
Oh, it was deflected by Norton.
That's the second time that Eric Green has had to go back behind for a ball. Right here, Norton's going to get his right hand on the football, and Eric Green, a wobbly ball back behind him, makes the adjustment.
Marino, first down, over the middle, and Byers cannot make a one-handed catch.
Well, there's a guy that's got to come up with some big plays tonight for Miami, and that is Keith Byers, an extremely gifted, big back out of the backfield. And that 255 pounds is accurate. And along with that weight, he's got soft hands, nifty feet, and can make something happen after the catch.
He should have used both of them that time.
This last pass might have been deflected as well. There's Bryant Young getting a fingernail on it.
He sure did.
2nd and 10 from the 39-yard line. Marino. Green can't make the catch. Ken Norton with the coverage.
That ball was hot and high.
And tough.
I'm not sure that John Mackey, Jackie Smith, and Mike Ditka all rolled into one would have caught that.
Fine coverage on the part of the 49ers. They took away the flat. Marino wanted to get it outside. But they are protecting him. Kurt Widener over at right guard, where he started for several years, replacing Chris Gray. Struggled in the first few minutes of this game, but he has settled down, and he's going against the tough one, Bryant Young. That'll be his primary opponent over the course of the evening.
Well, Billy Milner, right tackle, is having to play for Ron Heller, who's out for the year.
3rd down, 10. Good protection, and it's incomplete. He tries to gun it into the arms of O.J. McDuffie. 4th down.
Oh, but that was such a good pass. He had to get rid of the football, and he gave McDuffie a chance to catch the football. McDuffie was covered beautifully. And nevertheless, this guy, I've seen him so many years. He does amazing things. I mean, he put this ball where it could have been caught, even though he was well covered. It's worth looking at it, even when it's incomplete.
John Kidd the punt, Dexter Carter back, and that kick almost straight up. And it gets a San Francisco hop and is down at the 24-yard line by Michael Stewart. 9:14 to the half. The game tie 7-7. It's perfect the first time they had the ball, crisply marching 43 yards for a touchdown, but on their 3 subsequent drives, a total of 55 yards have been picked up.
And one of the things the Dolphins defense has done pretty effectively is taken Rice, except for the one big play, out of this game.
Ball is given to Derek Lavelle. Picks up a couple up to the 26-yard line. Derek Lavelle filling the spot occupied by Ricky Waters last year. They let Waters go. He got a tremendous contract with the Eagles, and the Niners, instead of going into the market for a big free agent back, made Lavelle the incumbent, said, come and get him if anybody can, and he just held on to the job in training camp.
Really an unlikely incumbent, too.
2nd and 8. Rice in motion. Burbach looks that way and then settles for the checkoff to Lavelle, who puts his head down and picks up the 1st down.
Maybe that's why he's there.
Yeah, quietly and silently, Derek has done a very good job for this team.
Came up to Seattle 5 years ago. They cut him loose. He came to the 49ers. They cut him loose 2 or 3 times. He just kept bouncing back, and it's his job.
Pretty good job there of assessing where the sticks were and lowering the shoulder and going after it. None of this stepping out of bounds 6 inches from the stripe. Let's go ahead and pick up a couple of tough yards.
And it's Lavelle again. And I know the way it is spelled, but that's the way he prefers to have it pronounced, Lavelle.
The man they really miss on a play like that is William Floyd, who went down against New Orleans with a severely injured knee, but one of the outstanding run blockers in the league, William Floyd, but also an extraordinary receiver coming out of the backfield. They really do miss him.
Talking about blockers, Rod Milstead is in at right guard. He started there, but he alternates with Chris Dahlman. Dahlman right there on the sidelines has a concussion that he received when he caught that deflected pass. His return to the game is questionable.
2nd and 9, and the catch is made over the middle by Brent Jones, a.k.a. Lazarus, who appeared to be done for the season when he was taken off with a knee injury about a month ago and never missed a game. And shaken up on that play is
Harris Barton.
That's not a good sign.
Oh, and he appears to be in agony down on the field.
Well, Barton missed the first 3 games of the season.
Oh, one of the great guys in the NFL and one of the really good right tackles in this game. Boy, does he appear to really be in pain.
He had a calf injury sustained in training camp, severe enough to keep him out for 3 weeks. And now they work on his leg here.
Watch his right leg. Watch him throw it out right here.
Oh, yeah, he hyperextended it.
Boy, he threw that right leg out, and you could see a real flex, looked like both the knee and the ankle.
Well, in the last couple of plays now, we've had Chris Dahlman go out with a concussion. Remember, he caught that pass and was shaken on the tackle, and they say his return is questionable. And now you have Barton hurt, and the only other backup lineman would be Frank Pollock, and there he is.
Oh, this is a devastating blow to the 49ers. Obviously to Harris individually, but this is another quality football player that this team can't afford to lose, especially with their depth already depleted on the offensive line. Lindsey McClain, the trainer, there on one knee, taking a look at the leg of Harris Barton, and again, one of the game's really good guys.
Well, we know that Wallace is gone and Deese is gone. We saw them in street clothes, and Dahlman with a concussion, and now just when the 49ers appear to be getting all of their pieces back together, and there are Wallace and Deese. And it's a very anxious moment here for George Seifert and the staff, and at least encouraging here that Harris is able to get up onto his feet.
He threw that right leg way out to try to stop himself, and it just looked like he rode right over the top of it. Looked like it was hyperextended. And right now the 49ers have more offensive linemen out of the game than they have in it.
And a rookie, Tim Hanshaw, another offensive lineman, inactive for tonight's game.
And thinking about also cross George Seifert's mind too about the possibility of even using Steve Young. He would want pretty much all of his offensive line guns in there to protect Steve Young if he puts him in the game, and he is down to the bare minimum right now.
Sure. And remember, Barton's a left tackle for a left-handed quarterback. 3rd down and 2 from the 44 as Gerbach throws. Catch is made, and Taylor has it and picks up a 1st down. The great John Taylor ending his career here in his 10th season.
Yeah, this is a take-no-prisoners game, and Dan, I would think that Miami's got to change defensively their tactics. They're a laid-back kind of a team. They don't blitz that much. They lay back in the zone, but with the way this offensive line has changed for the 49ers over the past few weeks, I would think that Olivadotti would have to be thinking, let's do some switching, let's do some stunning, let's do some blitzing.
I agree with you there, and I think Mark Trestman, the offensive coordinator of the 49ers, will counter with shorter drops and quicker passes.
1st and 10. Gerbach picks up a couple, and I'll tell you what, Klingbeil came in and came real close to drawing a flag.
That could have.
And did he hurt Elvis?
And in this environment, that very well could have. He drawn a flag, and
he wounded.
Slow getting up.
He wounded Gerbach.
Well, Klingbeil is up there pretty close to 300.
And Steve Young's liable to come in this game, ready or not.
That's 300 pounds popping you.
And that should have drawn a flag. Looked to me like Elvis was down.
Well, he wasn't feet first.
And helmet to helmet.
It sure could have, though, in the environment that we're in now. And I think he's going out.
The 49ers are taking a timeout. If this was an injury timeout, he'd have to be replaced for at least one play. But they're not ready to do that, so the 49ers are actually spending a timeout. On the field every time he comes off during a timeout.
Of course, it cost him an unsportsmanlike conduct in last week's game when he flipped his helmet off and it hit the ground, and when the officials took umbrage to it. Elvis Gerbach is coming back into the game.
They worked on Elvis's helmet. And Seifert, while we were away for the commercial, complaining to Jerry Markwright that last play should have thrown a flag, and Steve Young is warming up.
That might have been a ploy on the part of the 49ers not to take him out of the game. He's saying there was a helmet, not they needed a timeout because of an injury.
Well, they are out of timeouts now. It is 2nd down and 7 at the 47. The game tied 7-7. Burbach throws up his back foot, and out in front is the incomparable Jerry Rice. Touchdown. 150th of his career.
And what good play action on the part of Gerbach.
Elvis Gerbach chasing Jerry Rice all the way into the corner of Joe Robbie Stadium. And a fine job by Gerbach of staying alive.
Oh, boy. And a slant in, a look on the part of Jerry Rice. J.B. Brown going with it all the way. He's looking into the backfield. He sees the little pump fake from Gerbach. And then Rice just turns it downfield right there. And Brown is left flat-footed. And this is perfectly thrown.
Well, and you can't overestimate the quality of that throw by Elvis Gerbach, considering that he was falling backwards as he threw it.
Wilkins for the point after. Rice has scored 9 touchdowns on rushes, 141 on receptions, 150 touchdowns.
20,
number 80.
24 of them, I think, Al, have come on Monday night. All-time Monday night leader in receptions and touchdowns. He knows he is Mr. Prime Time.
He certainly is that, and it almost doesn't matter who the other members of the offensive machine are. Somehow, regardless of who's quarterbacking, they get the ball to Jerry Rice.
Now, this is stunning for the Dolphins. I mean, this place is... I mean, a moment ago, Gerbach was on the sidelines. Was he going to come in? Was Steve Young going to come in? Whether or not they had to call a timeout, they did.
Well, it's the second big touchdown pass we've seen tonight, where it looked initially like the quarterback was in trouble and wasn't going to be able to make much happen. Remember Dan Marino? He got lost in the shuffle. Marquez Pope turned loose a Dolphin receiver. That resulted in a touchdown. Same thing here. Gerbach stayed alive, threw out of the pile, and we get a touchdown.
You know, he does not have the athleticism of Steve Young, but he is one tough cookie. And he's big. He's 6'5", weighs about 230 pounds. He'll stand there and look it over until he gets a receiver.
Jerry Rice now, among other things, the all-time leading scorer in the history of Monday Night Football. The interesting thing there is the 4 below him are all kickers.
You know, lots of great players play a career and don't score that many points. He just separated apart.
14-7. 49ers leading by 7. Wilkins' kick goes out of bounds, and that will give the Miami Dolphins the football up to the 40-yard line.
Tonight is a rare treat for the fans here at Joe Robbie Stadium and those of you at home to see Dan Marino and Jerry Rice on the field together. Between the two of them, before it's all over, we'll end up owning just about every meaningful passing and receiving record in the National Football League history.
It's interesting, too, that this man, the all-time leading touchdown receiver in the league, should Marino throw 2 more tonight, which is very possible, to become the all-time leading touchdown passer, Jerry Rice will be on hand to watch it.
Miami from the 40-yard line. 5:56 remaining in the first half. Bernie Parmalee.
The thing about
by Merton Hanks, that's a gain of 3 up to the 43. Goodyear Blimp Stars and Stripes with pilot Dick Esch at the controls. A look into Joe Robbie Stadium. It's almost, Dan, a surreal sight from above.
Beautiful, beautiful picture from the sky.
You know, it's like a ring, doesn't it? A Super Bowl ring.
The other part of Marino and Rice is because they play in separate conferences, they don't even get to be teammates in a Pro Bowl.
2nd down and 7 from the 43-yard line. And Myers makes the catch and picks up 3 before he's tackled by Norton.
Being told by the 49ers and their medical people that Harris Martin has a twisted right knee, out until at least halftime, which certainly sounds a lot more optimistic than it looked.
Yeah, Dan, they didn't have a medical man with him. That is good. He's got an ice pack on it, I believe, but None of the medical staff hovering around, which would be a bad sign. A little pressure on the inside.
3rd down and 5 now for the Dolphins out of the shotgun from the 45-yard line. 4:30 to go in the half. Marino throws. It's McDuffie seeking that first down. Loses the football. Here's Merton Hanks, who ran one back last week. There's a flag down. Merton is off to the races again. And he is out of bounds at around the 21-yard line. He'll do his dance, but let's see what happened way back upfield. They're going to mark the ball at the 22, which is where he stepped out of bounds. And I think they picked the flag back up.
It's very close to McDuffie being down. They didn't even hesitate, though. They didn't even put any kind of a marker down. They just ruled this a fumble right on the spot. Now, was his knee down before the ball comes out?
Sure is. O.J. McDuffie's left knee touched the ground long before that ball came loose.
Yep.
I mean, long before that ball came loose.
There was a flag that came out that was picked back up at the line of scrimmage as it's taken to the 19-yard line. Here's another look.
Watch this right here. And his knee had gone down even well before that. His one knee went down on the ground. Watch it right here. His left knee, it's on the ground, comes back up again. And then the fumble comes out. That was an unfortunate miss by the officials that gave it. Right there, he's down. The play's over.
Good strip by Derek Dodge.
2nd down and 7 from the 19-yard line. Burbach throws, and it is incomplete. Intended receiver was Dexter Carter.
Marino talking upstairs. In all probability to Mark Trestman and his crew.
Well, Tom Alabadati right now faced with the problem, do I blitz Elvis Grbac or not?
3rd and 7, and the Dolphins take a timeout. There's Brian Cox coming in, and obviously not happy with the personnel.
I don't think they have 11 men on the field. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
They might not have 10.
I think they only have 9.
Can we trust you after the accounting for the evening?
I've made my one mathematical error for the evening.
Well, I'll tell you, this is more serious for Miami than it appears. I mean, Tom Alabadati is under fire down here, and some of the defensive errors that they have made over the course of the year. But there literally were 9 men on the field.
I think we can get a wide look at it here. We'll see if there's 9 or 10. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, they had 10. You like to have 11, though, especially in a critical 3rd down situation like that.
I'm sure it's not Tom's fault they're not out there, but I mean, this is something you have to hammer into your defensive unit. You call out the defense you want, either by name, by color, by code, and they got to be in there.
There's just so much situational substitution in today's NFL game, Frank, that I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often. It becomes a big part of practice, just working on your different packages, coming and going, and making sure that the right people stay and the right people leave.
But you should know the situation, too. You should be into the game to know the situation you might be going out there.
3rd and 7 at the 19-yard line. Double tight end set. Great protection. And then a little dump off to Lavelle, who breaks a tackle and comes within 2 yards of picking up the first down at the 15. He broke out of a would-be tackle by Singleton and finally taken down by Cox.
And it makes things a lot easier for the new kicker, Jeff Wilkins.
The 49ers, they've been so good in so many areas for so long, but in the 90s they have had all kinds of problems kicking field goals and going through various kickers. Wilkins, the 3rd man to kick for them this year. Bryan is gone. He's with New Orleans. Zendejas is there. Now Wilkins. Oates to snap it. Grbac to hold it. 33-yard attempt is good.
Well, the kid's 2 for 2.
He had 1 week ago against Dallas. He came up a year ago with Dallas, I believe, and was cut, and then was cut by Philadelphia. And then when 49ers got rid of Tony Zendejas, they brought him in. They were familiar with him, and he's the kicker.
2:53 left in the half. It's now 17-7, and let's check in with Brent Musburger. Brent?
Well, Al, coming up on the Toyota halftime report, we're going to return to 1974. John Lennon drops by the Monday Night Football booth at halftime. And you've got some very interesting thoughts on the game of franchise roulette that is being played these days in the NFL. Right now, let's send you back to the game, and here's Al Michaels.
Okay, Brent, and the 49ers have scored the last 10 points in this one to extend their advantage to 17-7. The winner of this game will be 7-4. And the loser, especially if it's Miami, finds themselves in a lot of trouble because Miami would be 2 games back of Buffalo. And here's a team that a lot of people expected to get to the Super Bowl. And we get to that point in the season, Gents, where we start talking about not only the playoffs, but getting that first round bye.
And then you have to look at the quality of the opposition the Dolphins face down the stretch, because after this week they play the Colts and then Atlanta, Kansas City. You know, we'll be back here for that Monday nighter. Buffalo again, and then closing out against the Rams. No easy finish for the Fish.
Bouncing ball. It's Ronnie Williams, a receiver, not showing receiver-type hands.
The way it's going.
And all of their
Except for
opponents
Kansas
with
City.
winning records, and that is that's a Monday night game. 3 weeks from tonight. That's a beauty.
Yeah, none of those other games are televised. Only the December 11th game.
What a job Buffalo has done this year putting it back together.
49ers have the Rams and Buffalo at home, at Carolina, Minnesota. That's a Monday night game on the 18th of December. And close at Atlanta. That's fortuitous schedule making for the NFL as the pass is knocked away by Marquez Cole.
You know, the good news for 49ers is Steve Young coming back next week. They will have 4 of their remaining 5 games that will be played on a natural surface. And that means an awful lot when you have a bad shoulder. Grass is a lot easier to fall on than that carpet.
Right in the hands.
Yep.
When you're down, when you need to come back, you just can't afford to drop passes like that. It's a type of inconsistent play that has plagued the Dolphins all season long.
Duffy has fumbled tonight. He's dropped another pass. Tough night. He's usually a very good tough performer for them.
2nd and 10. Ooh, Irving Fryer makes the catch. The ball comes loose, and then they say he didn't even have it. Ricky Jackson, who has spent, well, we're in Florida, so he knows where Ponce de Leon resides, or resided, and he has found the fountain of youth, has Jackson.
First round pick from New Orleans 15 years ago, and totally rejuvenated Ricky Jackson. Now he wants to play more. He's been using most on the pass rush. He wants to be in the game.
I'm sure Irving Fryer looked up after this play and inquired of Ricky Jackson, why aren't you rushing the quarterback? Why are you sitting out here waiting to make my life miserable?
The 49ers do that. They tend to Pete Carroll. They put in a lot of that blitz zone, and they drop that defensive lineman off.
3rd down and 10. And that's dropped. Kirby had it, couldn't hold on.
Well, they'll boo this lustily. And here they come raining out of the upper decks of Joe Robbie Stadium. Boy, you're down by 10. It's a quality possession with plenty of time left to move down the field. And what do you have? 2 drop passes.
Wasn't the best pass Marino has thrown, but one that certainly should be caught. I mean, this just takes concentration. We're thinking not one hand, I'll get 2 hands on it, which would have been a lot easier to do.
Now Kidd to kick, Carter back to receive it. Good kick. Carter at the 24-yard line. It's a 51-yard boot, and Brian Cox comes down to make the tackle. And a flag is down. Flag down at the end of the play at the 27.
Probably going to get a block from behind.
Ball coming up from Jerry Markbright. Cedric
Illegal
Dodge.
block, number 33, receiving team on the return, 10-yard penalty, first down.
It is Dodge.
There he is right there at the bottom of your screen. There's the blow from behind, and Derek Dodge hits Dwayne Dotson from behind, and plainly visible.
49ers at the 15-yard line. 1st and 10 with 2:13 left in the half. Remember, the 49ers do not have a timeout. Lavelle.
Another missed tackle.
Oh, yeah, just all over the joint.
Well, that's missed tackle, but that was an excellent move by Lavelle.
Again, it's Singleton whose would-be tackle is broken. 2-minute warning, Niners by 10. Things change from week to week. Barry Switzer went from being a dummy to a genius again. 49ers went from being dead to being kings again. You never know what to expect.
It's a very humbling game.
Well, I know one thing for sure. If the Dolphins flop tonight and drop to 6-5, a couple games behind Buffalo, you know, hurricane season down here normally ends the end of November. It has a chance of continuing well through December. Life for the Dolphins and Don Shula is not going to be a really fun experience.
Well, they are schizophrenic, are they? They're just a multiple team. I mean, they'll come in and play brilliantly against really tough teams, and they'll lose to the weaker teams. And it's hard to understand.
1st and 10 from the 32-yard line. 49ers without a timeout as Gerback rolls and throws, and Brent Jones gets whacked by Louis Oliver, the one-time Dolphin who went to Cincinnati and then came back and gets the start tonight in place of Gene Atkins.
Would you call that a big hit?
Major.
So that's very fortunate that Brent Jones wasn't hurt. He is one tough guy. Was it 3 weeks ago we thought he was out for the season with a knee, and Oliver, who made his first start tonight, gave us the full strut after the hit. Wasn't that good a hit?
2nd and 10 at the 32. Lavelle picks up 2.
Well, what's interesting now, and we have seen some history here on Monday Night Football. I know we did the game where Art Monk set his receiving record, and we got a shot of seeing it here tonight. What, Dan? 1 behind Tarkenton to tie, and 2 touchdown passes to take the NFL record and put it away.
Of course, you got the yardage record a week ago, and when he finishes, it's going to be his book.
The one thing, though, the one that Dan says that he wants more than any other, though, is the one for most touchdown passes.
Right. He says that relates to points. The Dolphins, by the way, have just taken a timeout. That's why we have the pause here. As you look at Fran in 246 games, that's 65 more games than Marino has played. Montana wound up 4th on the list, or is 4th right now at 273.
And the irony that he went to the Super Bowl in his second year, and I remember we carried that game and thinking, boy, we are going to see a lot of this man in the Super Bowl, many Super Bowls to come, particularly with Don Shula, with the franchise that carried.
The one thing you have to say, though, about Fran Tarkenton and all quarterbacks who played in that era, it was a lot tougher to throw the football then than it is now. The rules have been liberalized greatly, and the numbers for the modern era quarterbacks will always be better than the old timers.
3rd down and 8. Walker. And he takes it up to the 39-yard line, so the Dolphins were able to stop him. They'll take a timeout to conserve the clock here with 1:30 remaining. By the way, when we talked about Switzer before, I was saying that facetiously, and it's just chiding the knee-jerk reaction of so many people. You lose a game, and all of a sudden, it's amazing. The Cowboys look so good on the Monday night against Philadelphia. Everything's going along swimmingly. Then you lose, so the coach becomes a dope. Right? And then you win, and the coach is a genius again. It's amazing.
It seems to happen to everybody at least once a year. Remember last year, the year the 49ers win the Super Bowl? They're pummeled by the Eagles early in the season.
Sure.
Downright embarrassed by Philadelphia. I don't remember the score, but it was 40-something to 10 or 8 or something like that.
8, right.
Yeah, it's...
they had a fan call in to see whether George Seifert should stay or not.
Right.
So you wonder, how can it happen? But I must admit, without Steve Young getting beat in Texas Stadium as badly as the Cowboys were beaten, it was somewhat of an eye-opener.
Well, the Deion factor played into it. Everyone thought Deion would be raped all over Jerry Rice. Anyone that really knows a whole lot about this game knows you just can't do that.
Well, if George Seifert tonight comes out of here with a W and Steve Young has a clean uniform, he's going to be the happiest guy on that airplane on his way back to California.
Here's Tommy Thompson to kick, and it's a very short kick, and the Dolphins are going to be in very good shape at the end of this one. Hey, step! That's as long a bounce as I've ever seen. That's a 23-yard bounce.
This is grass, a natural surface. You don't get those kinds of bounces.
But Tommy hit it 10 yards in the air and 23 on the grass.
That ball was so high up, I'm surprised it didn't find the water table when it hit the field here. Off of a soft grass field to take a bounce like that. Take it when you get it.
No kidding.
That's the equivalent of being about 100 yards out and sculling a sandwich and having dribble all the way up onto the green and be about 3 feet from the pin.
Know the feeling.
His stats will not include bounces.
Not that I've ever done that, but I've played against people who've done it.
Yes, I know you have. We had a nice time today, too. First down from the 27-yard line. And Marino drops it off into the arms of Kirby. The Dolphins are out of timeouts. Ricky Jackson makes the tackle. 2nd and 7. Marino to McDuffie, loses the football, and INT comes up with it.
That's an INT. Yep. O.J. McDuffie having a tough time holding on to the football tonight.
Oh, and he is such a clutch player for the Dolphins. He has a great percentage of receptions, and anytime he handles the football, of coming up with first downs, and just having a abysmal night tonight.
Well, Don needs his defense to really come alive now with 50 seconds left in the first half. They've got to come up big. Olivadotti may have to gamble. Again, a ball a little bit behind McDuffie, but he appeared to have it. Appeared to control it for a minute.
Hanks is amazing. He's always there. He's always around the action. Gerbach throws. Lavelle. They don't have a timeout. Lavelle to the 33-yard line. That's the first down.
The 49er running backs and receivers are picking up 5 and 6 yards a whack after they're being hit by the Dolphins.
Now Gerbach spikes it with 31 ticks left. And just a few yards now away from field goal range.
There's Dan trying to pump O.J. up, trying to, hey, I need you in the second half. Don't go in the tank on me now. Here's an illustration of the Dolphins and their poor tackling. J.B. Brown, I don't know if he thought he was playing flag football at first when he came up and just put 2 hands on Lavelle's chest. But if he's waiting for him to fall down, it's not going to happen.
2nd and 10 from the 34. Gerbach to Stokes. Now they're in field goal range. 22-yard line. Cox makes the tackle. Gerbach wants him to get up to the line of scrimmage, and he can spike it to stop the clock. And he does. We have 16 seconds now remaining. So with another play left, the key thing here for Gerbach is either to get it into the end zone or to make sure he gets it to somebody who can get out of bounds.
Or don't do anything heroic and turn it over. And that's what they will discuss. But again, J.J. Stokes now in there in relief of John Taylor as one of the 2 wide receivers.
Well, you could read Young's lips telling him exactly what he has to do here in addition to the play. Because you don't want to wind up making the catch in the middle of the field and not being able to set up for the field goal. Gerbach throws, and the catch is made by Jones. Touchdown.
Well, Ryan Cox in the trailing position, Frank.
And Miami thinking just like you were, Al, and all of us. Don't let them have anything to the outside. And so what do? They take everything right down the middle. And what a clutch player Brent Jones has been over the years.
And how about Elvis? How about the play of Elvis Gerbach? He's the one tonight that looks like he's the guy assaulting the NFL record book for touchdown passes.
Cox again. It's a mismatch when you put Cox on a tight end of the Brent Jones caliber. But Cox is in terrible position.
Did you see Cox turning back to look for the ball? His timing couldn't have been worse. He turned as the ball was already going past him, and when he looked back, he didn't realize that Brent Jones had already caught it.
Well, that's a tough thing to ask him to do. Take Brent Jones, covering 20 yards downfield. It's an impossible thing to do.
No, Brian Cox's best play happens within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. He's a dominating physical guy within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. And your point is well made, Frank. You get him beyond that, and there's trouble.
But the kind of coverage you have to give him, there's 51 Cox, the kind of coverage you have to do with the tight end when you have Jerry Rice on one side, Stokes on the other side, or John Taylor. You try to get double coverage on the outside. You put somebody like Cox on Brent Jones, you get hurt.
You could see Brian looking back, looking for the football. When Brent Jones is rolling into the end zone, Brian Cox is not even aware of it. Look at him still looking back there, looking for the ball. He does not know that Brent Jones is already in the end zone for a touchdown.
That's embarrassing.
He turns at just the most inopportune time and completely misses the ball. Now, what you don't have to have is a self-destructive deal on the sideline. The Dolphins have had problems the last couple of weeks with guys blowing their stack on the sidelines. Vent your frustration, but don't take anything out on a teammate, Brian. And that goes for everybody in a Dolphin uniform. There's Ron Heller, the right tackle, the normal starter on this ball club. He had surgery on both of his knees, out for the balance of the season, but says he wants to come back and play next year.
Here's Randall Hill returning the kickoff. And he gets out of bounds as the clock runs out.
Well, so far, we have seen the AFC this weekend challenge the NFC a little bit with the Raiders and the Dolphins against the Cowboys and the 49ers, respectively. Right now, it looks like the NFC is firmly in control.
What else is new? 24/7 at the half. Back we come after this message from the NFL on the word from our ABC station.